Trigonometry is math in my head that I can't keep out. Got me solving like I'm a math every day. It's like the screen's class stuck on replay.
Hey guys, let's go over 1.57, solving by completing the square when a is not 1. Let's go ahead and do this one problem with me. It tells us to solve 4x squared minus 12x minus 27 equals 0. Alright, you'll notice the difference between this problem and the previous problems is that this is not, the a value is not 1. So normally you would just move the c value over and start. But in this problem, what we're going to have to do here is basically divide both sides by 4. Now when I do this, this 4 goes basically to everything. And of course, you can do that here. So that becomes just x squared. 12 divided by 4 is 3x. Remember, you can think of it as 4 times 3, and then these 4's would cancel. That's why you're left with just a 3x, if that makes sense. And that is just 0. Okay, then we're just going to do the same thing of completing the square, solving by completing the square. So I'm going to move the c value. I have x squared minus 3x equals 27 over 4. Okay, now at this point, we're going to do something called completing the square. So the formula is b over 2 squared. So my b value is negative 3. And remember, that's negative 3 squared, which is 9, and 2 squared is 4. So that c value that we've done in previous problems, or to complete the square, is adding 9/4 to both sides. Here and here. Plus 9/4 plus 9/4. Okay, so now I have x squared minus 3x plus 9/4. I guess I didn't really need to. Over here, because you have a common denominator, you can just add the numerator. So 27 plus 9 is 36. Let's go ahead and factor this now. So a times c, so a, b, c, is going to be 9/4. My b value is negative 3. Now remember, you're going to get stuck on this, so there's two ways of finding this number. The first way, let me change my colors here, is just going up here. Two numbers that multiply to be 9/4 are negative 3/2. And then if you add those together, you'll get negative 6 over 2, which is negative 3. A second way of getting those blue numbers is just dividing this number by 2. Because we have a perfect square trinomial, that basically means you cut the number in half, and you add those two numbers, will equal that number, or multiply to get the number above. Okay, remember what we're doing, we're splitting this b term here, so we have to add an x. And you're going to factor like normal and solve this by completing the square. So you have 9/4. This direction you have an x. This direction you have negative 3/2, x, and negative 3/2. Remember, you can always multiply to check your answer. X times x is x squared. X times negative 3/2 is negative 3/2 x. X times negative 3/2 is negative 3/2 x, and negative 3/2 times negative 3/2 is 9/4. So basically what we have is x minus 3/2 squared, because you have two of those, and 36 divided by 4 is 9. Okay, we're going to apply the square root here. So these cancel, and you're left with x minus 3/2 equals 3. Don't forget your plus or minus. Okay, so we're going to add that 3/2. It goes to the left. To the left. Okay, so how do we simplify this? You could just separate your plus or minus. If you want to, might be easier at this time, is to deal with this 3. So how do you make 3 a fraction? Just put it over 1. Common denominator. I'm going to multiply any number times 1. It doesn't change it. So I get 6 over 2. And now you can separate that. X equals 3/2 plus 6 over 2. And 3/2 minus 6 over 2. So basically I'm splitting now the plus and the minus. You add those together, you'll get 9/2. And over here you'll do 3 minus 6 will give you negative 3/2. And that's our answer. That's how we solved by completing the square when a is not equal to 1. Alright, the directions tell you now for questions 32 to 37, complete 3, so you can go ahead and skip 3 problems. Let's go over number 32 here. Oh, this one's going to be nice. We're going to divide by 2 on all of those. You can notice that 2, 8, and 24 are even, so that makes it super nice. So 2 divided by 2 is x squared. Negative 8 divided by 2 is negative 4x. And negative 24 divided by 2 is negative 12. Okay, here you'll notice that this is not factorable by the Xbox method. You cannot find out 2 binomials, so we're going to move the c value to the right, and we're going to solve this by completing the square. I'm going to use our formula, CTS, b over 2 squared, taking half the b value and squaring it. So my b value here is negative 4. Half of negative 4 is negative 2, and negative 2 squared is 4. So to complete the square, I'm going to have to add 4 to both sides. Remember, I have to add it to both sides because it's called a property of equality. Let's put 4 here and 4 here. And then I can just factor here. So a is 1, so a times c is 4. B value is negative 4. My 2 values, again, you can come over here, or you can take this in half. You could choose. Negative 2 and negative 2. It's splitting this term, so add an x, and let's factor it. Have you noticed a shortcut yet? That always works. I hope you can discover it. And the c value is 4. Let's go ahead and factor out here. You'll get an x here, negative 2, x, and negative 2. Remember, these binomials will always be the same when you're using this method here, because that's what a perfect square trinomial means. Okay, let's just finish this up. It's isolated now, so I can take the square root. Gone, gone, gone. X minus 2 equals square root of 16 is 4. Don't forget your plus or minus. And then you're going to add 2 here. So that would be 2 plus 4, which is 6, and 2 minus 4 is negative 2. And this is our answer. If you get confused, you can always put another box or double box it. Alright, question number 33. Can you predict why this would not be fun? Alright. I wanted to do a perfect square trinomial, but 2x squared minus 3x plus 1 is not factorable. So what we're going to do is we're going to divide both sides by 2. So basically our a value, our starting a value here is greater than 1. So we're going to reduce it. So I'm going to get x squared minus 3 halves x plus 1 half. I'm going to move the c value over. And I have x squared minus 3 halves x equals negative 1 half. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and do CTS, completing the square. The formula is b over 2 squared, so we're going to take half the b value here. So this is going to be negative 3 halves over 2 squared. Okay, to divide fractions, I have the numerator, so that would be negative 3 halves divided by 2. I'm going to make this one a fraction, 2 over 1, and then we're going to take the reciprocal. You're going to switch these two, so 1 half. So now it's negative 3 halves times 1 half. And whatever our answer is, we're going to square it. So for multiplying fractions, we're just going to multiply across. So you're going to get negative. Saving image. Negative 3/4 squared. And negative 3, or you can say negative times negative is a positive, so then 3 squared is 9 over 16. Alright, a little bit more work for us, but it's okay. We've completed the square, and now I'm going to add 9/16 to both sides. With a pen, not a highlighter. Okay, let's go ahead and factor this one over here. So I have my a value and your c value, a, b, c. A times c is going to be 9/16. And our b value is negative 3 halves. Remember, let's see if I can show you with a different color. The easiest way to get those two numbers is just look right here. Like 9/16, two numbers that multiply, that's negative 3/4. Now, if you decide to take half of the b value, you would have to do this. Right? Dividing by 2 is the same thing as multiplying by 1/2. Say that again. Dividing by 2 is the same thing as multiplying by 1/2. So you get negative 3/4. Remember, we are splitting this term right here, so we have to add an x. That's a 4. So negative 3/4 x, negative 3/4 x. And here we have x squared, and then 9/16. Okay, I'm taking the greatest common factor, so that would be an x, negative 3/4 x, and negative 3/4. So there you can see what happened. Oh, wonderful. It erased it. Blah, 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 blah. Great. Keep rolling. What did we say this was? Negative 3/4, so 9/16, and I added 9/16 to both sides. and we basically said this was x minus 3/4 squared. Okay, over here, I'm going to multiply by 8/8. I came up with that because I want it to be a common denominator. So negative 8/16 plus, well, they're both over 16, so that'll be 9. So that'll be 1/16. I could take the square root of both sides because it's isolated. Gone, gone, gone. X minus 3/4 equals, don't forget your plus or minus. Okay, so that is square root of 1 over the square root of 16. So square root of 1 is 1, and the square root of 16 is 4. We're going to add 3/4 here. X equals 3/4 plus or minus 1/4. You have a common denominator, so you can just add 3 plus 1 is 4, so 4 over 4, or 1. And 3 minus 1 is 2, and 2/4 is 1/2. And those are your answers. Alright, let's go over question number 34. The goal here is to solve by completing the square, and I want to get rid of this a value that is greater than 1. So we're going to divide this whole expression, both sides, by 2. 2 divided by 2 is just 1, so I have x squared minus 13 halves x minus 7 halves x equals 0. The common mistake is just divide by 2 on the first one. You have to divide it by all, right? So going to a house trick-or-treating, everybody gets candy. Everybody in the whole party. Okay, let's add 7 halves here to both sides. We're removing the c value because this right here in blue is not factorable using the Xbox method. Okay, let's go ahead and complete the square. Write down the formula always. Simple step, but a lot of students will mix up. Okay, so negative 13 halves divided by 2. Remember, we're going to change that to multiplication, and we're going to take the reciprocal here. So negative 13 halves times 1/2. Because dividing by 2 is the same thing as multiplying by 1/2. We're going to multiply across, so negative 13 over 4, and then we're going to square each of those, so you'll get 169 over 16. Let's go ahead and add that. Alright, let's go ahead and factor over here. So A, B, C, 169 over 16. Negative 13 halves. Remember that special number. Just look right above right here, and you get negative 13 over 4. Splitting this term. And now we're just factoring. Let me try to tell you this in a different way. What two identical expressions multiply to be x squared? That would be x and x. What multiplies to be negative 13 over 4x? Well, I have an x, and this has to be negative 13 over 4. X times something equals negative 13 4x. negative 13 over 4. And negative 13 over 4 times negative 13 over 4 equals 169 over 16. So now I have x minus 13 over 4. Again, you have a common denominator of 16. So the reason why you multiply by 8 over 8 or 1 is you're finding an equivalent fraction that has a denominator of 16. So this will give me 56 over 16 plus 169 over 16. Hey, I'm trying to change the color. I think it was saving. Okay, so this will become 225 over 16. And then this is the same. That's a 13. Let's take the square root. Square root property. Remember, you have a plus or minus. X minus 13 over 4 equals square root of 225 is 15s, and 16 is 4 and 4. So that would be 15 over 4. And this is how you know you're always doing it right at the end. Those fractions should be nice and easy. So add 13 over 4 right to the left of the red. Common denominator, you can split it if you want to, but I'm just going to add a cross. 13 plus 15 is going to be 28 over 4, which is 7. And then 13 minus 15 is going to be negative 2 over 4, which is negative 1/2. Negative. There's our answer. Okay, number 25. You can't use the factoring here. You're going to have to use the square root method, and we're going to get rid of the a value. We don't want it to be bigger than 1. We want it to be 1, so I'm going to divide this whole thing by 25. So this will become just x squared. This is going to be 8 over 5, 5 over 5, so that reduces to 8/5 x. Let's see if that hurts me, that I reduced it. Okay, so I'm going to add this to both sides. X squared plus 8 over 5 x equals 9 over 25. I'm going to complete the square. So there's my b value. What could help you if you kind of get stuck on fractions is also changing the color of the fraction line. I find that helpful. Okay, so we have 8/5 divided by 2. Go back to pen. And put it over 1. Switch that. Flip or take the reciprocal. Multiply across. You're going to get blah, blah, blah. 8 over 10. Which reduces to 4/5. And you square that, and you're going to get 16 over 25. Ooh, we had to work for that one. Okay, let's go ahead and factor. A, B, C. A times C is 16 over 25. B value is 8/5. Remember, there's two ways of getting this value, that's going to be 4/5. Passing period. That splits this term, so add 4/5 x, 4/5 x. That'll be x squared and 16/25. Let's find your greatest common factor, x, 4/5 x, and 4/5. So that'll give us x plus 4/5 squared equals, you can add those together, 25 over 25 is what? 1. 20, saving image, it says. Okay. Let's just finish this one up. Hey. Saving image. Okay, so square root. Gone. X plus 4/5 equals. Hopefully you've been appreciating changing that color. And then 1. You can predict ahead that this one's going to become 5/5. Can you see it? Think ahead. X equals negative 4/5 plus or minus, right? The 1, you make it over a fraction over 1. Your denominator is 5. So you're going to do 5/5 because you can multiply any number times 1. And now we have an equivalent fraction, 5/5. And I did that so we can get x equals negative 4 plus 5 is 1. So that'll be 1/5. And negative 4 minus 5 is negative 9/5. Ta-da. Alright, number 36. Turn on my pencil here. We're trying to get the a value to be 1. In order to do that, I'm going to have to divide the whole expression by 2. I'm going to get x squared plus 7/2, or 7/2x, minus 2 equals 0. Hopefully you notice all my fractions are vertical. And now I have x squared plus 7/2 x equals 2. At this time, we're going to complete the square. Completing the square has a formula, CTS, b divided by 2. My b value is 7/2, so 7/2 squared, 7/2 divided by 2 squared. And basically we're going to take this fraction and turn it horizontally, 7/2 divided by 2. Dividing by 2 is the same thing as multiplying by 1/2, and that's the reason why you change this one to multiplication, and then you take the reciprocal and you get 1/2. Multiply across because you're just multiplying, so that would be 7/4, and then 49/16. So we're doing this. So 49/16 will complete the square. Let's go ahead and factor. So A, B, C. A times C is 49/16. My B value is 7/2. Remember the number you can pick. Go from up here. 2 numbers that multiply is 7/4. 7/4 times 7/4 is 49/16, and 7/4 plus 7/4 gives you 14/4, which reduces to 7/2. It's reducing this term, so 7/2 x, 7/2 x, x squared and 49 over 16. So you get x 7 halves, x and 7 halves. So we get x plus 7 halves squared equals, they really like that 8, don't they? This will give us this will give us 16 over, why did they do 8? Come on, Mr. Ring. That's the fun about math. We can multiply by 16 over 16. So all of this will become 32 over 16. So then I'm adding that one. That would be 81 over 16. Let's take the square root. So gone, gone, gone. And square root of 81 over square root of 16, those are perfect squares, so that would be 9 over 4. And don't forget your plus or minus. Plus or minus, plus or minus. Okay, so now we're going to subtract 7 halves. And we're going to get, okay, let's think strategically. This one is really negative 14 over 4. How did I get that? I just multiplied by 2 because I see the denominator 4. And then I can do negative 14 plus 9 is negative 5 over 4. Negative 14 minus 9 is going to be negative 23 over 4. Double check my answer. While it's saving an image. Alright, caught my mistake here. You probably saw it. That should have been 7/4. And so the number I needed was 7/4. So this becomes 7 over 4, 7 over 4, 7 over 4, and then we don't need this one. Okay, let's try that again. That would give us negative 7 plus 9 is 2 over 4, which is 1/2, right? And negative 7 minus 9 is negative 16 over 4, which is negative 16 over 4 is negative 4. That makes the math problem hoppy, 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 hoppy. Okay, let's go to our last one here. Trying to get rid of this a value to make it 1, so we're going to divide this whole thing by 3. I chose 3 because that's what the a value is. So you're going to get x squared plus 2/3 x minus 1/3 equals 0. I'm going to move the c value to the right side, so that's going to be x squared plus 2/3 x equals positive 1/3, right? Because I would just add 1/3 to both sides. And then we're going to complete the square. CTS. Is that a band? Okay, 2/3 divided by 2 squared. 2/3, remember this is division, divided by 2. And change that to multiplication, take the reciprocal, multiply across, you'll get 2/6. You can reduce that if you want, it's okay if you don't. You will get 4 over 36, which reduces to 1/9. So let's put it here, 1/9, 1/9. Alright, let's factor this now. A, B, C. A times C is 1/9. B value is 2/3. Remember, my two numbers are over here. You can use you can use 2/6, or you can reduce that as 1/3. So you can choose. I'm gonna use let's do 1/3. Okay, so 1/3 times 1/3 equals 1/9, and 1/3 plus 1/3 is 2/3. We're splitting the middle term here, so this becomes 1/3 x, 1/3 x. This is 1x squared. C value is 1/9. And let's go ahead and factor. I have an x in common. 1/3 x and 1/3. Check those answers. Multiply x squared, 1/3 times x, 1/3 x, 1/3 x, 1/3 times x is 1/3 x, and 1/3 times 1/3 is 1/9. So x plus 1/3 squared equals, that would be 3/9 plus 1/9 will give us 4/9. Okay. So let's take the square root. Gone. X plus 1/3 equals square root of 4 over square root of 9, so that would be 2/3. And don't forget your plus or minus. And subtract the 1/3. So you have x equals negative 1/3 plus or minus 2/3. X equals negative 1/2 plus 2 is 1/3. Negative 1 minus 2 is negative 3. So negative 3 over 3 is just negative 1. And that's our answer. And that was 1.57. We'll see you guys later. Bye.
And today's message is, thou shalt honor the correct order of operations. Honoring the correct order of operations shall make your life in math easier and less complicated. Always make sure to honor the correct order of operations.